Welcome to Effective Communication.
Half the world is filled with people who have something to say and can't say it, and the other half of people who have nothing to say and keep on saying it.
All of us communicate. Getting in touch with people across the globe nowadays is more about punching keys on the computer and buttons on the telephone. Communication is easy, anytime, anyhow, anywhere. But is it always effective? What is the distinction, you may ask, between communication and effective communication? As long as we communicate, right? Wrong. There's a whole world of difference. Click on the example button.
Hey, did you know genes cause cancer?
Genes? They cause cancer? Did you see that? The difference lies in that gap between what the person meant to say and what the receiver misunderstood. The objective of this program is to close that gap and ensure that whenever you communicate, you always get the desired response. In this program, we will look at what is effective communication, learn about the various types of communication, emphasize the importance of listening, identify the barriers to effective communication and how to minimize them, and finally, help you improve your communication skills with various tips. Click on What is Effective Communication to commence the program. In this module, we will understand just what is effective communication by highlighting the importance of effective communication and identifying the components of effective communication. Communication. We hear this term all the time. We read about it in newspapers, magazines, the internet. We hear about it on television, radio, all around us. It is the very basis of our lives. Communication is an exchange of ideas, thoughts and feelings between two or more entities. We communicate our thoughts and feelings to family, friends, co-workers and strangers every hour of every day. We cannot not communicate. Now let's take a look at some examples of communication. Click on the example buttons.
Hello, please deliver 6 box files. Oh no, I didn't want a box of files, but box files.
Hello dear, so how was shopping today?
Not good, Mom. I couldn't buy the fabric I was looking for. The salesman was a bit short.
A bit short? Indeed, girls these days.
Now these were instances of ineffective communication, where the communication was fraught with misunderstanding and did not convey the intended message. Ineffective communication is in fact one of the biggest causes of frustration, dysfunctional personal relationships, stagnant organizations, and even war between countries. Now let us look at some other examples.
Broken? Don't despair. We help you repair.
These are all instances of effective communication, as they all achieve a desired result. Can you imagine being locked up for a day without any interaction with anybody? No, you can't. Man is a social animal and communication is vital for his survival. It is a very powerful tool that provides the way for our naturally social tendencies. What happens if we are unable to use this tool to its fullest capacity? We become frustrated and unhappy with our work and ourselves because our goals and the goals of others are not met. We exhibit a poor self-image, which makes it difficult for us to command respect from others. Family life, professional promotions or raises can be affected. In fact, a recent research suggests that differences in communication skills are strong predictors of an individual's success, whether in society or at work. Effective communication is about making our communication worthwhile and achieving the desired results. Effective communication allows us to have healthy and successful relationships both in our personal as well as our professional life. Let's listen to a conversation between Vijay and his wife Sarah, planning an evening out with their son Dharma.
I'll pick you and Dharma at 6 p.m. We'll go out for dinner.
Fine, darling. We'll be ready. Bye.
But by 6 p.m. Vijay has neither reached home nor has he called. When Vijay finally gets home, it's after 8 p.m. What do you think Sarah is feeling? That's right, she's worried. What do you think Sarah and Dharma are trying to communicate? Disappointment and hurt.
Hey, listen, I'm very sorry about today, but I had this really important meeting that came up quite suddenly. But to make up for it, I bought us dinner from that restaurant we had planned to go to, and I'm going to take tomorrow off and take you guys out. Now, is that a deal?
Vijay's initial communication, or rather lack of it, in that he did not inform his family about the delay at work, actually spells his indifference to his family. But Vijay's ultimate communication shows that he did indeed care, and thus his family readily forgives him. Here we see how effective communication is important in resolving misunderstanding and hurt, and paving the way for better relationships. Communication is a two-way process. One person transmits the message and the other receives it. But what happens if one has sent the message but the other doesn't receive it to the fullest, or doesn't receive it at all? Is it still effective communication? No, it is not. Effective communication occurs only when the message and its subtext are fully and completely acknowledged and responded to. All communication is characterized by the following factors. Sender. This is a person or even an organization with something to communicate to someone else. The message or the subtext. The message that the person wants to communicate. This could be a thought, feeling, view, emotion. Receiver. The person whom the communication is intended for. What distinguishes good and effective communication from its poor and ineffective counterpart is the desired response or feedback. This is what the sender was hoping to invoke in the receiver after the initial communication. This could be in the form of an acknowledgement, action, or a verbal reply. This is the deciding factor in any communication's effectiveness. Feedback. Let's take the case of a carpenter and his rather dim-witted assistant. Here's an example to substantiate how response or feedback from the receiver is crucial to communication.
When I hold this nail in place and nod my head, hit it hard with the hammer.
We can all guess what would have happened to the poor carpenter. This could have been totally avoided if proper feedback had been taken. Feedback or responding to initial communication is very important as it helps in carrying the transaction forward towards a more meaningful and more effective communication. By using verbal and non-verbal feedback from your listener to guide your communication, you can make them more receptive to your message. Let's look at an example to see how feedback determines a communication's success or failure.
Hello, Grace. I didn't know you came to this library too.
Oh, hello, Bart. I am an old member here. You look like you are looking for something in particular. Can I help?
Oh, that would be great. I just don't understand this system of book cataloging. It's so complicated.
Oh, no, Bart. It is quite simple, really. Let me explain.
Would you? Thanks.
Well, see, it's all sorted alphabetically and placed according to the author.
Okay.
Yes, all you have to do is look for the particular author by his initial.
Oh,
I don't think you have quite understood. Let me give you my printed catalogue. That should help you get by initially.
thanks again, Grace. You are a real pal. I owe you one.
So you see, had Grace not understood Bart's need for assistance and asked him about it, and had Bart not given her constant feedback on what she was telling him, he would have had a difficult time getting the books he wanted. Okay, there's some more to effective communication. Let's take a look at some other factors. Click on each to find out. KISS. Keep it short and simple. An extensive and impressive vocabulary does not guarantee effective communication. In fact, short and simple messages are most likely to get the desired results when compared to lengthy ones. "I am a bear of very little brain and long words bother me," said Winnie the Pooh. Would you understand this sentence? I utilized a multi-tined tool to process a starch resource. Neither would we. The person here is actually saying, "I used my fork to eat a potato." Conviction and confidence. It is not just the contents of a speech but also the way it is put across that makes the difference. Unless you are convinced and confident of a message yourself, it will fail to evoke any confidence in the receiver. Try this simple exercise. Stand in front of a mirror and talk to your mirror image. Try to convince your image about something you yourself are not convinced about. Now straighten yourself up and try to convince your image about something you believe in very strongly. Did you notice the difference? Didn't you feel better after the second attempt? That is exactly the point. Confidence and conviction are crucial to any communication activity. Enthusiasm. Any communication which indicates eagerness and zest is sure to succeed. Enthusiasm shows a certain involvement which inspires confidence in the receiver. Think of famous orators. They all have alert, attentive and enthusiastic postures. All their mannerisms signify action and enthusiasm. Respect. It is imperative that we respect the people we are communicating with. We all have our own sense of self-esteem and expect to be treated with courtesy and politeness. Recall an incident when someone was rude to you, a clerk in a government department firing you for not having all 22 documents that you were supposed to have, complete and in triplicate. How did you feel in such cases? Humiliated? Upset? All this and more, right? Would you like to deal with these people again? Obviously not. You would much rather deal with someone who gave you respect. Let's recap our learning in the first module. We started by looking at what effective communication was and how it played an important role in our lives. Then we examined the components of effective communication: feedback, KISS, conviction, enthusiasm, and respect. But before we go any further, let's assess our understanding of effective communication. Click on the Start button to begin the quiz. Can you imagine being locked up for a day without any interaction with anybody? No, you can't. Man is a social animal and communication is vital for his survival. It is a very powerful because our goals and Click on Types of Communication to proceed in the program. In this module, we shall analyze the different types of communication, verbal and non-verbal, and see how clear and effective communication is a seamless blend of both. Types of communication. Communication is more than mere words. To understand a message completely, we have to not only understand what is being said, but also how it is being said. Click on the Scenario button.
I need these reports by tomorrow. Can you do it before you leave?
Okay, if you really want them, then I'll stay back.
Oh, is there a problem staying back today? If so, then you can always do it early tomorrow.
Really? Thanks. I have an appointment with my dentist today. I'll do the reports first thing in the morning.
Here we saw how both the substance, what was said, verbal, and the manner, how it was said, verbal and non-verbal, of the communication contributed to its effectiveness. Communication, in effect, is a blend of the verbal and the non-verbal. Verbal communication is all about the spoken word or the structured language form between two or more entities. Example, dialogues, conversations, telephonic, video or face-to-face, presentations, meetings, conferences, debates, etc. Verbal communications are direct and tend to evoke an immediate response. Our everyday communication of hello, how do you do, sorry I'm late, congratulations you won, are all expressed verbally. We are at our verbal best when questioning, confronting, expressing, acknowledging a difference of opinion, asking for, offering help. Let's examine each one in detail. Posing questions allows the clarification of any situation for both the sender and the receiver. Use questions to help yourself focus and structure the conversation. Open-ended questions are more useful than those that can be answered with a yes or no, closed questions, since these tend to provide concise answers. Questions should be framed as politely as possible. Click on the buttons for examples.
How do you propose to solve this problem?
Well, Dad, I'll park the car, then I'll go inside and ask for Ramesh, and we'll...
Can you tell me something about the problems the industry is currently facing?
Do you mean to say that we cannot work without this computer?
Yes, madam.
Did you have toast or pancakes for breakfast?
I had toast, Mom. Confrontations. Verbal confrontations yield an immediate response in day-to-day life. Written confrontations are normally reserved for legal matters or areas that require solid documentation. Click on examples for illustrations.
Mart, why didn't you tell me the meeting has been postponed? I just got the memo.
Sorry, Runa, I was totally lost in this spreadsheet. I just didn't realize you weren't informed. Ben, you have been consistently late this whole week. This is your second warning. What do you have to say for yourself?
I know. It's just that I haven't been keeping too well these last few days. And being ill makes me late. I'm sorry.
These instances started out as confrontations, but were quickly converted into amiable dialogues with the proper responses, leading to effective communication. Expressing, acknowledging a difference of opinion. During conflict resolutions, more ground can be covered if both parties involved simply acknowledge a difference of opinion. A good idea would be to recognize the areas of the argument or conflict and agree to disagree on them. A difference of opinion between two human beings is quite natural. Acceptance of the above fact would lead to better interaction. Click on the button for examples.
It's okay if you don't agree with my point of view.
Sorry, Joey, but you know how I feel about this project. I am not at liberty to discuss it.
Asking for, offering help. Let us look at some examples.
I have been trying to draw up the budget, but don't seem to be making any progress. Could you help me with this?
Hi, do you want me to carry these for you?
Asking or offering to help is an effective verbal tactic, which essentially makes the other person feel wanted and cared about. It also helps to create an amicable setting and paves the way for further effective communication. Language and vocal delivery are also crucial to the credibility of a communication. It is very important to use the appropriate style while conversing with people. A mumbled, fuzzy opinion punctuated with spoken in a torrent with no eye contact will have a different effect from one that is expressed with conviction at the appropriate pitch, resonance and volume. Click on the button for example.
There won't be any problems with my claim, will there?
No, I mean there shouldn't be, there is no reason for such things to happen, but you can never tell.
Do you think the client would have been convinced with the lawyer's assurance? Would you have been convinced? Certainly not. Any communication is a blend of verbal and non-verbal factors. Now let's analyze the importance of the non-verbal aspect of communication. It includes other forms of interaction like the written word and body language. Let us examine each in detail. Body language. Body movement, language and vocal delivery are the all-important factors that make for effective communication. To be an effective communicator, you must be able to read the body language of your receiver and the environment and adapt your messages accordingly. Using the verbal and non-verbal feedback from your listener to guide your behavior makes them more receptive to your message, thus making way for a more effective communication. Let's look at different body language gestures and signs individually. Click on any part of the action column to see the illustration. The most effective method of conveying any message is by making eye contact with your listener, maintaining good posture and keeping your body and facial features relaxed. Click on Sunny to see what he has to say.
Hi, I'm Sunny.
You must learn to avoid certain negative gestures like wringing your hands or touching your nose or even having a shifty eye contact. Click on Sunny to see what he has to say now. Hey, your mom's a great cook.
Yeah, right.
Does he sound convincing? Of course not. That's because his words and his body language are not synchronous. Click on Pictures for more.
Is that so?
What does the man's body language tell you?
Losing the competition is not so bad. I am not heartbroken at all.
What do you think the girl actually feels? Written communication. When verbal communication is not possible due to some reason or is not suitable for the occasion, we adopt written communication. This could be because the person lives far away and is not available on phone. We have to send in more information. Click on the visual for details. Written communication is preferred in the business community as it creates a paper trail, which is useful for further transactions. Let us go through the basic rules on writing to reach. Write to people the way you would want them to write to you. Be clear. It helps the reader understand your message easily. Put yourself in the place of the recipient when you read your letters. Don't sign them unless you are totally happy. And finally, kiss. Keep it short and simple. In this module, we looked at the types of communication, verbal and non-verbal, and their uses in the areas of questioning, confrontation, and others, and learned how body language plays a vital role in complete communication. We also examined the use of the written word. We've come to the end of Module 2. Let's quiz. Click on the Start button. Let's now understand the importance of listening in good communication. Click on the title. In this module, we will examine the importance of listening and identify the types of listening, active and passive. One of the major skills in effective communication is the ability to listen well. Research shows that effective communication involves 50% more listening than talking. It is important to realize that listening is not just paying attention to the other person's words, but also to his tone and facial expressions and body language. Let's look at an example to understand the importance of listening. Here's a salesman on a cold call.
Good morning. I am from Very Clean Vacuum Cleaner Company. I would like to show you our latest product. You see, we have recently come up with a model that cleans your carpet more effectively.
But I don't need this.
Don't worry. I understand your problem. This vacuum cleaner is not expensive. It's a very low-cost model. In fact, if you buy it before September, we can give you a discount. Anyway, as I was saying, it is a very useful machine. A lot of homes have already bought one. I'd like to demonstrate it to you.
How would you feel conversing with such a person? Frustrated? Irritated? You would definitely not be willing to do business with him. But most importantly, by not listening to you, he did not come to know that you already had the same vacuum cleaner and that he was wasting his breath on you. Notice that the salesman also said, "Don't worry, I understand your problem." Whereas in reality, he hadn't even heard your problem. So how could he possibly understand it? We call this a preconceived idea. The salesman thought he knew what the customer was saying, and in so assuming, he missed out on vital information. To listen effectively, you should pay complete attention. Don't think ahead as to what you're going to say next. Don't rehearse your own comments while the other is speaking. Don't interrupt. Remain silent when the other person speaks. Listen for feelings underneath the words and to the nuances in language. Read the body language. Keep an open mind. Don't judge immediately. Encourage the speaker to continue, clarifying what is being said if necessary. Listening can be broadly classified into two types: active and passive listening. This happens when the receiver listens to not only what has been communicated, but also how it has been communicated. When the listener only listens to half the message and ignores the subtext, thus getting incomplete communication, it is a passive form of listening. Click on each for more. I couldn't feed my dog in time today. I had to drop my son off at school real early in the morning. His exam starts at 8.
Oh, Tessie, that's too bad. Bruno is such a wonderful dog. But what are you going to do about tomorrow? I'm sure the exams are going to be on for a few days at least. Can I help?
This is active listening. The woman was able to understand and appreciate Tessie's problems as she paid attention to what Tessie was saying. Active listening is most helpful when it comes to effective communication, as it makes the other person feel loved and cared for. I couldn't feed my dog in time today. I had to drop my son off at school real early in the morning. His exam starts at 8.
Oh, I'm glad my kids are all grown up.
In this module, we discuss the two types of listening, active and passive, and emphasize the crucial role listening plays in effective communication. We have reached the end of the third module. Let's quiz ourselves on our listening skills. Click on the Start button to begin. Click on Busting the Barriers to proceed in the program. In this module, we will identify the barriers to effective communication, which comprise external ones like noise, climate and environment, internal ones like illness, anger, prejudice, mental detouring, among others, and discuss approaches to overcome them. Something or the other may prevent us from listening and responding carefully. These are called barriers or obstacles to communication. These barriers can prevent us from not only paying attention, but also from even hearing the communication at all. These barriers are of two types. Click on each for details. External. These barriers are mostly outside, in the environment, and can be easily overcome. Internal. These are obstacles that are there within us. These may be a little difficult to get rid of, but it is not impossible to do so. External barriers. Let's see what external barriers are and how they affect communication. These barriers are those that are created by our immediate environment. These could be climatic conditions, noise level conditions, and environmental conditions. Internal. These are barriers that are present within us. These are mostly either health-related or emotional in nature. Some of them are physical illness, mental illness, anger, prejudice or biases, total lack of confidence in the speaker, distraction, mental detouring, and daydreaming. Barriers have to be minimized, if not completely eliminated, for any communication to be effective. Some experts are of the opinion that total elimination is an impossibility, so our goal should be to minimize them as much as possible. Let's deal first with minimizing external barriers. These are relatively easier to tackle than internal barriers. Climatic conditions. Excessive heat or cold often disrupts the normal functioning of a person. These could be removed by the use of air conditioning and room heating. Air conditioning has the added advantage of removing excessive noise also. These devices help in balancing an unpleasant climate. Noise level conditions. A noisy environment or a room near a marketplace makes it very difficult to listen actively. Well-oiled door hinges and soundproofing can be considered. In places where this is not possible, the usage of heavy curtains helps in preventing excessive unwanted noise. Stuffy, congested rooms, a stinking environment, or uncomfortable seating also acts as major barriers to active listening. The solution to bad room odor is room fresheners. Seating must always be in such a way as to provide maximum comfort to the person. Chairs used must not be too hard or too soft. Now let's look at how to minimize internal barriers. Physical illness. Keeping fit prevents illness to a great degree. This helps in improved levels of concentration and thus good communication. Mental illness. A cheerful countenance and an optimistic and positive outlook in life can help in countering mental illnesses like depression, minor complexes, and thus ensure smooth communication. Anger. This is one of the biggest obstacles to effective communication. Anger has to be channeled in the right direction in order to make it a constructive force. There are several anger management techniques that can be followed effectively in order to do so. Prejudice and biases. This can be overcome by having an open mind and understanding the fact that all human beings are born equal. Total lack of confidence in the speaker. Even if this were so, there is no harm in listening to him or her with an open mind. There is always a possibility that they might have something new to convey that you are not yet aware of. Distraction. Psychologists say that it is so very easy to be distracted from a conversation that it is almost inevitable. The cause of distraction could be something the speaker is wearing or the words he uses or even his style of delivery. This can only be prevented by paying full attention to what the speaker is saying and by forcing ourselves to be interested in the subject. Mental detouring. Detouring is simply going off at a tangent while communicating with somebody. The detour could be sparked off by a chance remark by the speaker, which could have reminded us of some other incident, or chore to be done, or even an anecdote. This results in our not paying attention to the speaker and thus not listening to what he has communicated. The solution is to quickly get back to the speaker and the conversation at hand. Daydreaming. Who can claim not to have daydreamt ever? No one. All of us daydream from time to time. Though a creative activity, this invariably leads to a break in communication. Hence, be prudent in your indulgence. To recap, in this module, we discussed the internal and external barriers to effective communication, like environmental conditions and health and attitudes, and various ways to minimize them. Let's see how effective our learning has been. Click on the Start button to begin the course. Internal barriers are those which are within us, like prejudices, biases, physical and mental illness, anger, distraction, mental detouring, daydreaming, etc. Whereas environmental conditions, noise level conditions, climatic conditions are all external barriers. Let's now look at some final tips for great communication. Click on the title to proceed. In this module, we will look at some tried and tested tips for improving our communication skills. These tips and exercises will go a long way in helping us improve our communication skills. When verbally communicating, keep an open mind about what people say. It is advisable not to presume anything before the communication has been completed. Ask a specific question when you want a specific answer. Take notes wherever possible. This is particularly helpful for telephone conversations. We tend to forget numbers and other figures. These could be taken down for greater effectiveness. Speak in as natural a tone as possible to create a warm environment. This is a very effective rapport-building technique wherein matching the speaker's tone goes a great way in an effective communication. Use humor where and when appropriate. Humor has the effect of diffusing difficult situations and lightens the atmosphere. Avoid using unclear and complex words. They tend to unnecessarily confuse the receiver. Always try to put yourself in the other's shoes while in the midst of a conversation and respond accordingly. This will assure the speaker that you are indeed listening and will increase his or her trust levels. And finally, do give relevant feedback. This is very important as it tells the speaker what you feel about his communication. When writing, use simple language. Bombastic language will have the reader darting to the dictionary every time. Order your thoughts. You can even make notes before writing a letter or a report. Visualize the reader when writing a long report or letter. It becomes more relevant than if you wrote out a generalized and non-personal letter or report. Read your report or letter after a while. It may give you valuable newer insights into what you have written. Add meaningful headlines and captions. People tend to read them first. Use colorful images and visuals wherever possible. A good picture can convey 1,000 words. Here's a simple exercise we recommend to improve your listening skills.
Sit still in a comfortable position. Close your eyes. You can do this without closing your eyes also, but if you do close your eyes, it will have a greater impact. Stop thinking and just listen to all the sounds around you. Spend some time identifying each sound that you hear. Tune in to one particular sound and listen to it for 5 minutes. Now, you may open your eyes slowly. Repeat this exercise every morning in order to improve your listening skills.
In this final module of our program, we looked at various tips to enhance communication, both verbal and written, and also participated in an exercise to improve our listening skills. Time for a quiz again. Click on the Start button to begin. Well, we've reached the end of the program. Let's do a quick recap. In the first module, we examined the nuances of effective communication and examined its various components. In Module 2, we analyzed the verbal and non-verbal types of communication and saw how a blend of both makes for effective communication. That all-important quality of listening was discussed in Module 3, where we also identified the types of listening. In Module 4, we identified the obstacles to effective communication and examined ways to overcome them. The final module provided us with various tips on improving our communication skills.